Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Saving consistently is one of the best ways to achieve your financial goals, but you may not know where to start or how to invest. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing for your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals. Then it automatically invests your money for you. Go to acorns.com/FYDJ or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Paid non-client endorsement may not be representative of all clients. Tier 1 compensation provided. Compensation provides an incentive to positively promote Acorns. View important disclosures at acorns.com/FYDJ. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Please consider your objectives, risk tolerance, and Acorns fees before investing. Acorns Advisors LLC. Acorns is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are provided to clients of Acorns by Acorns Securities LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. For more information, visit acorns.com. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. It's time to change your job, maybe even your career, but you can't decide where you want to go. Andrea Yacub Macek is here to talk about what to do when you don't know what's next. She's the founder and CEO of AYM Consulting. Andrea's company helps professional women show up as themselves and move forward and upward in their careers. She joins us from Salt Lake City, Utah. Well, let's jump right into it, Andrea. Why do people struggle with not knowing what to do next in a career or in making a job change? What's going on there?
Sure. So there's a couple of things at play, and I will preface that as a career coach for women. I'm speaking mainly from a female perspective as a woman myself. But typically what happens when someone finds themselves at this intersection, it's because there's a personal and professional situation happening, and we can't isolate those two. If you're at a career intersection, there's something happening in your personal life. So that's one thing. And secondly, we're socialized to view careers in a linear trajectory, and that's not accurate. Careers are meant to be up and down, zigzagged, go in circles and go all over the place. But we are very socialized from a young age to take a linear path because our education system is set up in a linear path. So when professionals find themselves at an intersection of what do I do next, they're looking for that next step in the roadmap, and they haven't been taught or coached on how to create that next step. So that's typically the two main things that are happening.
Let's talk about that second point you just made there, Andrea, about that linear path we're taught that careers should take. How, in your experience as a career coach, how often are we likely to experience a situation where we're not going to know what we're sure about doing next in our time in the workplace?
Typically, it's pretty immediate because, again, the school system is not set up to help us think critically when there's an opening in the step, meaning you come out of high school. Some people go on to a trade school or go to college. And again, it's a linear setup. So when you're dropped, if you will, into the real world, into a career setting, when there's a lot of open-ended questions, you're with a team, you're with a boss, you're in a new culture of the company, usually right away, people feel pretty unhinged and uncertain of what to do next. And usually that's just covered up by taking action. So doing your job, learning your job, trying to figure out what your boss wants. And we just continue to go down that path. And then it will come to a head at an intersection again when there's personal and professional things maybe colliding. And then someone finally looks up and goes, oh, well, what do I actually do next now? What happens? And they're pulled out of that rhythm.
And careers can go on for 3 or 4 decades. So is this something that happens only after graduation from high school or college, or can you expect it naturally to occur again during your time in the workplace?
You should expect it to occur naturally at various points of your career. So again, it typically happens right after college. Then what I see with my clients is it happens usually again at the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 mark. So usually every 3 to 5 years, there'll be some sort of episode or event or situation in someone's, again, personal or professional life that's creating this question. So I want everyone to know that that's not wrong. It's not bad. It's perfectly normal. And to feel that way and to experience those questions.
Often when people are unsure about what to do next, they'll jump into a job search. They'll start applying for positions. What can happen in a search when you're not clear about what you want to do next?
So that typically looks like what we see called the spray and pray method in a job search, meaning you're applying for everything. You're not really having a strategic direction, and that will create burnout very quickly. And that happens because you don't know what you want, or you don't know where to aim. So you want to really create a focus without restricting yourself too much. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
We're absolutely going to jump into that. One last question before we do. What stops people from getting that clarity about what they want to do next? What do you see in your practice?
The number one barrier is fear. Fear of failure, fear of messing up, fear of disappointing themselves or somebody else, and fear that it won't work out. So really, fear is the big F word, is what I call it in our careers that we don't usually talk about, but that really needs to be addressed.
And you've got 3 points that you encourage people to follow to get clarity about what to do next. But what about overcoming fear before we get into those points? What have you seen be most effective, Andrea, for people who are wrestling with that?
So there's a few methods, but one of the most helpful that I really support my clients through is connection with others. So networking. We're human. We want to connect with others who are similar to us and have been through what we've been through and are on the other side of that fear and are living that career path that we are thinking about or have been curious about. So really, networking is one of the most powerful ways to overcome that fear, to, again, see living examples of the other side of that.
Well, let's talk about a process that you encourage your clients to follow. There are 3 steps that you recommend people take when they're not sure what to do next. The first is to identify a clear direction. The second is to simplify your goal. And the third is optimize your plan. Let's talk about that first point. Andrea, why is it important to have a clear direction when you don't know what to do next?
Right. So this is the foundation of an effective job search, because when you have a clear target in mind, so let's make it concrete. So let's say you want to work in project management and you want to work in healthcare. When you have that clarity, you are then able to create a plan and take action with less second guessing, with less fear, because you have an idea of where you're going. Doesn't mean that you have again, step-by-step exact plan of what's going to happen next, but you have a roadmap, and that's really important for people. Our brains as humans don't like the unknown. We like to know what's happening. So if you can give yourself a direction of where to go, it's really going to help that. Secondly, this is invaluable and critical for communication in a job search. Your job search is a series of conversations right from the beginning. So when you apply online, when you're on LinkedIn, when you're in the interview, it's all a touch point for a conversation. And when you have clarity, you're able to confidently and expertly communicate your value to the employer. And that's really important so that you can stand out.
Well, the benefits are clear, but how do you do this, Andrea? What steps do you encourage listeners to take to get that clear direction about what to do next?
Yeah. So 2 main ways. One, I'm going to keep coming back to networking. It is one of the most beneficial strategies that any professional or job seeker can really learn and utilize. So again, connecting with other people to understand what path, what steps have they taken. A different way is to really look at yourself. So your present self, your past self, and really look at what have you done that's worked for you? What have you taken coursework? How have you gotten into the positions that you've had? What strategies have you applied? So really looking and evaluating what steps you've already taken. So those are 2 main ways that people can start to gain clarity.
Let's talk about networking. That can be a struggle for many people. They're often uncertain about how to do it. They may feel uncomfortable talking to people they don't know. What have you seen work for people who need to network in order to get that clear direction about what they want to do next?
So I coach and teach on this as well. So we'll talk about resources at the end, but a quick method is, again, to start with your goal. It's valid and normal to have multiple priorities or goals at the same time when you're at this intersection of what do I do next, or when you're networking. So again, the key foundation or the first step here is to get clear. So for example, maybe you want to change industries or get a different title or maybe make more money. Really think about what is the first priority for you. What is that main goal you want to focus on? From there, start to talk to people that you know. That would be a first step for networking, especially if you're not comfortable with it or don't have much practice with it. That is overlooked too often. People tend to want to go network with the person in their dream job or the person in the dream company. That's great, and I want you to get there, but I really want people to focus on connecting with people they know first. Have those conversations. Connect with people that you know that's going to take the pressure off of you and allow you to get more clarity and information in a low pressure way.
Terrific. We're going to take a break, Andrea. When we come back, Andrea Yacub Macek will continue to share her advice on what to do when you don't know what's next. Stay with us. Ageism in hiring is against the law. It's also a fact of life in today's job market. If you're an older worker like me, you face an uphill climb when you look for your next job. I want to help you overcome those odds. So I've put my best job interview advice for older workers into one new guide. It's called How to Fight Ageism in a Job Interview. And it gives you the skills you need to beat the barriers older workers often face. Visit maxlist.org/fightageism. You'll learn why you should embrace your age rather than run from it, how to talk about the taboo topic of age, and what you can do to diffuse age as a factor in hiring. Get your free copy of How to Fight Ageism in a Job Interview today. Visit maxlist.org/fightageism. Be prepared before you walk into the interview room. Go to maxlist.org/fightageism. Have you ever been asked this in a job interview? Tell me about a time when you didn't agree with your boss. What would you say? This is what's called a behavioral interview question, and it's a common tactic. Employers use this kind of question to explore your fit for a job based on your past experience. It can be an easy question to answer if you have the right strategy. I show you how to answer these gotcha questions in our free MaxList guide, 100 Behavioral Interview Questions You Need to Know. To get your copy, visit maxlist.org/questions. You'll also learn 4 simple steps for answering any behavioral interview question. Again, that's maxlist.org/questions. You can count on getting these questions in your next interview. Why not get the answers before you walk into the interview room? Go to maxlist.org/questions. We're back in the MaxList studio. I'm talking with Andrea Yacub Macek. She's the founder and CEO of AYM Consulting. Andrea's company helps professional women show up as themselves and move forward and upward in their careers. She joins us from Salt Lake City, Utah. Andrea, before the break, we were talking about what to do when you don't know what's next. And there are 3 points you encourage people to follow to figure out the answer to this question. And the first is setting a clear direction. And in doing that, you encourage listeners to reflect back on what's worked in past job searches and getting clarity about what they want to do next. Tell us more about that, why it's important to do that reflection, and how to do it, Andrea.
Sure. Again, that comes back to this step, which is clarity and really understanding who you are, what you want, and what makes you valuable as a job seeker. Again, typically as professionals, we go through the motions and we get the job, we develop the career, we keep going, we get promoted, and rely typically pretty heavily on outside feedback and insight as to what we're good at and what we want to do. But when you're at this intersection of what do I do next, it's really important to turn inward and really take some time to understand what is it that you actually want? What are you good at? What are the areas that you would identify for yourself and really get that validation for yourself? And this is mostly important for women. A lot of women, we struggle with that. So that's why I really emphasize that point.
Well, let's talk about your second point for figuring out what to do when you're not sure what to do next. And that step is simplifying your goal. What do you have in mind here, Andrea?
Sure. So when you come out of that clarity step, and again, this is not a linear process, but I'm making it linear for ease of use. Once you do some of that reflection and the clarity items, you're going to come out with a lot of information. So here's where I want people to practice simplification, because we tend to make job searches overcomplicated, and complicated in a job search doesn't work. That's what makes it longer, and that's what makes it stressful. So I want people to really practice the art of simplification and focus in on those key 1 to 2 areas or insights or goals that you want to move forward with. What is the item that you're really ready to take action on? So do you want to reconnect with somebody? Do you want to apply for a certain company, apply for a certain title? Do you need more information about a particular area to create an action plan? So really practice the art of simplification and also practice the art of decision making. Don't focus on making the right decision. Focus on making the next decision so you can move forward.
So simplify, act. But how do you do that? Because it's easy to come up with a long list of to-do items. What have you seen work, Andrea, for helping people figure out what are the 3 to 5 things they actually must do?
Their values. So we all really value and prioritize certain things. So it might be more rest, more time for ourselves, more time with loved ones, maybe more money, more flexibility. So really, again, get clear with yourself on what are those top priorities that you are ready to match up in your job search. That's going to give you a great starting point to take action and simplify from that point of value.
How do you make that connection between values and that lengthy to-do list? How do you see people do that effectively?
Simple but powerful is I really ask my clients to, again, just take time, take about 15 to 20 minutes, set a timer, get in a quiet space, go to a coffee shop, go in the kitchen, make yourself a cup of tea, and just sit for even 20 minutes and let yourself think about all the areas you want more time for or would have more time for. Again, what are the things that you keep putting off? What do you want to do? We all have that. Well, as women, I'll clarify, we typically have that running to-do list of the things we want to do or wish we could do. That's probably your value mechanism coming forward. And that's something to pay attention to prioritize and take action from.
And that helps you get clarity about your overall goal. How can you navigate that lengthy list and figure out the most important things that you need to do to accomplish that goal and act on those values and make them part of your life?
Yeah. So by taking it one step at a time. Again, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people trying to do too much too fast in the job search, and they want to tackle everything all at once. They want to get on every job board. They want to update every part of the resume. They want to send off too many resumes. So don't do that. Instead, pick, again, simplification and clarity come back in here. Pick 1 to 2 things. You're better off spending your time on 1 to 2 items and then going from there and incorporate it into a habit you already have. So for example, if you work from home and can take an extra 15 minutes to write out an idea for your resume or for a cover letter while your coffee's brewing, do that. Or if you take the train into work and you're still working in the office, take that time during your commute. But build it into a habit you already have so it doesn't feel like another item on your to-do list.
The third of your 3 suggestions for figuring out what to do when you're not sure what to do next is to optimize your plan. Tell us more about this, Andrea. What does an optimized plan look like?
I just touched on that a little bit with the suggestion of how to habit stack, if you will, and build it into another habit. But again, think about you personally as a job seeker, as a professional. How do you work best? Meaning, do you work best when you have a list that you can check off throughout the week, and as you know, by Sunday you're done with that list? Or do you work better by seeing it visually on a calendar, a paper calendar, electronic calendar? Again, think about how you already do things and what are the things you're getting done routinely, and then put your job search items, put your what do I do next items on that list. Again, the process here is not to make it harder for yourself. We want to make it more simplified and doable for you. So that would be the best way to optimize your search.
How do you measure both progress and success when you're implementing this optimized plan? What kind of victories should you be celebrating?
Clarity is a big one. The more that you really start to feel grounded and feel like you have a sense of direction, feel like you have a sense of, okay, I can do this. That's one of the biggest things, because when you're asking the question, what do I do next? You're feeling mostly the opposite of those feelings. You're feeling confused, you're feeling lost, you're feeling like you're floating. So when you start to feel the opposite of those, and again, feel more grounded and feel connected, that's a big win. And then also action. So more concrete action steps. So again, if you're networking with that individual, you've reached out to them, you sent the email, you scheduled the coffee date, you blocked the 15 minutes to update one part of your resume. Measurable success is just as important as emotional success in this process.
So you followed the 3 steps. You've identified a clear direction. Second, you've simplified your goal. And third, you've optimized your plan. How do you know when you have the answer that you indeed really have figured out what you want to do next?
People aren't going to like this answer, but it's knowing that you're willing to be open to the clarity and the direction that you found. Meaning there is, for everyone, there's not this singular passion connected road ahead. And I think that's a big disadvantage that we're socialized, meaning we're trained to and socialized to believe that there's a dream job, there's a dream partner, there's this dream thing. And that's okay. There's the ideal of the dream, but I want people to really start to identify the pieces of the dream. Again, what are the tasks that you're doing? Who are the people that you're working with? What's the environment that you're in? Start to connect to the elements of that so that you can reach that culmination at some point. But don't try to go for it all at once. That's going to burn you out and stress you out. Really look for the stepping stones in that dream.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, Andrea. Now, tell us what's next for you.
So I am continuing to support women and their career changes. And so I invite everybody to connect with me on LinkedIn if they want to learn more about this conversation. They are invited to support me and connect with me there. I'd welcome to a conversation with them.
Terrific. And I know listeners can learn more about you, your work, and your services by visiting your website, www.aymconsulting.io. And when they do reach out to you on LinkedIn, I hope they'll mention they heard you on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Andrea, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about what to do when you don't know what's next?
I want people to really take away and know that it's normal and valid to feel that way. There's nothing wrong with you. That means that you're in it at the intersection of something great and ready to find what's next for you.
Next week, our guest will be Michael Buck. He's a recruiter and a human resources manager with deep roots in the nonprofit sector. You have a job interview coming up, and you're not sure how to prepare. How can you make sure you got this? Join us next Wednesday when Michael Buck and I talk about what to do before a job interview. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton Huff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer is Matt Fiorillo. Ryan Morrison at Podfly Productions edits the show. Dawn Mold creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.